knows where I'm going. And so whenever you see them sitting in church, it's the first time they get to relax. And no sooner than we launch out. Doesn't matter what the commotion is. Come on now. Doesn't matter how loud the preacher is. It's the first time they get to sit down and be still, so the moment they sit, they're gone. That's why you need to spend some time alone before you get to church. Come on now. Because that old devil, he will just rock you to sleep right in church. Right in church. But Jesus was so tired that the moment they launched out, he fell asleep, and he was not aware that the situation that started out so calm had become tumultuous. He was not aware that the environment was not the same when they first got into the ship and when they got in the middle of the sea. Sometimes things may start out fear. Sometimes things may start out calm. Sometimes things may start out smooth, but as we journey further along in life, we find out that life is not a bed of roses. Everything is not easy in life. Everything doesn't go exactly the way we expect it to go. Sometimes there are storms in the middle of our seas. And we find Jesus asleep in the storm. Ellen White tells us that the disciples battled the storm, and she says it in The Desire of Ages, Peace Be Still, the chapter entitled Peace Be Still, page 334. She says the disciples were so engrossed in fighting the storm that they forgot about Jesus. As many times we are struggling so much with life that we forget that Jesus is even there. He's not making any sound. It seems as if he's not communicating with us. He is fast asleep, unaware, and uninvolved in the process. And so we battle the storms of life alone. The disciples battled the storms alone because they were fishermen. That was their expertise. That was their expertise. And so they thought, the master is sleeping, let's not wake him. He's very tired. You know, when I was going to school, I worked nights. I worked security at nights. One night. Just one night. Because after going past 12 o'clock, I said, I quit. I'm not doing this. Night is made for sleep. Come on now. So I slept. But then I got a job marking papers. I said, yep, this is a good life. Amen. I can mark papers. And I taught music. But I always had to be walking, Fidel. So you've seen the pictures of me, very slim. That's because I walked everywhere, Dr. Poku. I lived off campus. I had to walk like 5 miles to school, 5 miles back home. So I was very slim. But when you do all of that activity, by the time it's time for class, you're very tired. And we had a classroom that was built up against the side of a hill. So on the outside of the building, there were windows. Amen? But when you got inside toward the hill, there were no windows. So we were locked inside a classroom with no windows. After walking all day and working all day, you go in there to be taught. And you know, sometimes our teachers aren't that inspiring. Come on now. They're not very inspiring. They're not very animated. And so you would find that sometimes a teacher would be teaching to a class that was half asleep. And by half asleep, I mean half of the people were asleep. Come on now. Sometimes in life, Jesus seems to be asleep. Have you ever been there before? You call out to him, he doesn't answer. Not in the way that you want him to answer. You shake him, no response. You tug on his coattails, no response. And the Bible tells us that they struggled with the storm until they were overwhelmed by the storm. And so they come to Jesus and they say, Master, we perish. All is lost. I don't know about you, but many times I've been in situations where it seemed as if everything was lost. And I tried my best. You know, we all try our best. We all use our expertise to try and deal with the situations in life. And sometimes life is just too much for our own expertise. Sometimes you go to the doctors and the doctors say, well, there is nothing we can do. We can try to make you comfortable, but there is no cure. Sometimes you go to people and they will give you a listening ear, but they have no solution to what you are going through. Sometimes life overwhelms us. Life overwhelms our expertise. That's a time when, if we ever needed the Lord before, we sure do need him now. And so they run to Jesus. They say, Master, we are perishing. Matthew and Mark picks up on this story. They say, carest thou not that we perish? Because you know, sometimes it's hard to understand why God doesn't answer our prayers immediately. Why God doesn't answer our prayers when we need him, desperately need him. Why does it seem as if God waits until we are overwhelmed? God waits until we get to the Red Sea and there are mountains on either side and Pharaoh's army behind us. Why does he wait that late? Why does he wait until Lazarus is dead for 4 days? Why does he wait until the widow's oil and her meal has run to its very lowest? Why does he wait to the last second? Is it a reflection of his uncaring nature? Or is there something else going on here? See, when Jesus woke up, Bible says he rebuked the wind. You're not hearing me today. You know, when we are in problems, sailors, they don't rebuke the wind. Come on now. Sailors have no control over the wind. So what do? We change our sails. We change our sails. We tug and we pull on our sails in order to adjust to the wind. But Jesus doesn't need to adjust to the wind. Jesus can command the wind. I'm telling you. I don't know what they were expecting when they went to Jesus, but they surely weren't expecting him to talk to the wind. Maybe they were saying, Lord, come and help us. Help us to bail the water out of the, you know what I'm saying? Help me bail the water out of the boat. Help us keep the boat steady. Help us hold the precious things in. But Jesus didn't do any of that. He spoke to the wind. After he spoke to the wind, he said to them, where is your faith? He said, where is your faith? And do you know what the disciples said to Jesus? They said, where are you from? He's asking them, where do they place their faith? Where do you deposit your faith? And they're asking him, where are you from? Because around here, people don't speak to the wind. We battle with the wind. We change our sails, but we have no authority over the winds and the waves. said, what